What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the Washed Kings podcast, the show where a couple of cousins talk hoops, the NBA, and keep you updated on everything you need to know about your Denver Nuggets. It is Sunday night, May 18th, about 8:30 p.m. Mountain Time. I'm your host, Cam Kennedy, and tonight we have a bummer of a show. The Nuggets have been eliminated by the Oklahoma City Thunder after a hard-fought 7-game series. They get blown out in Game 7. We're going to get through this, though, Nuggets Nation. We got to do it together, though, and to help us with the suffering, I got my fellow Washed Kings with me. EK, PK, and super producer Matthew Hinnon as well. Joining us, we're missing the Bear tonight who has graduation to work at, but we'll get his thoughts soon. Fellas, it's been a few hours, but how are you holding up?
I'm doing as good as you can, given the conditions of a Nuggets heartbreaker Game 7. Luckily, it was a blowout, so whatever.
It's kind of a slow burn of pain.
Played a good round of golf this morning, my best round of 9, shot a 40, so pretty pumped about that, so I'll take that win on the day.
Hell yeah.
I gotta admit, of course I'm sad, but I think we surpassed so many expectations. It's hard not to be proud of what these guys pulled together with the limited resources that they have. So, sad to see them go, but ultimately OKC was a tough one. And we gave him hell, so I'm happy about that.
Yeah, I think we, like Evan said, we surpassed, I think, our own expectations of this team, and certainly mine personally. It's a bummer. We've had a few hours to kind of think it over, and we've actually been sitting in here before we started recording, just talking about, going over some stuff and decompressing, and I think that definitely helps. Took a walk after just to kind of be like, yep, that happened. It's okay. We'll get through it, and a little bit of relief. So get the ball rolling on things that we really need to do.
I also have whiskey in my tea, so that's helping.
There you go. Similar to you guys, there's a lot of emotions here, a lot of proud emotions, a lot of unhappy emotions. We're gonna get through all of that into today's show, but yeah, Matt, during halftime of the game, I took a walk. I was pretty upset with how they closed that the second quarter in general was terrible, and then third quarter, a couple minutes go by, it's not improving. It's like, all right, yeah, this one's done, and you just kind of accept it from there. But we're gonna get all into it. That's what we're gonna talk about today. Is we're gonna relive Game 7 a little bit, give some props to OKC. Go over some of the negatives and positives from the postseason, and later we're going to talk about our early thoughts on what the Nuggets should do this offseason and the changes we can expect and see what happens. But first of all, let's go over Game 7 itself. There's not that much to talk about because it was a blowout, but the first quarter, I'll just start there. The first quarter was an inspired effort by the Nuggets. I thought Aaron Gordon's whether he was going to play or not was in question. This morning we saw the report that it was a grade 2 hamstring strain and that this is going to take like a month to recover from. So I thought there was no way. I made a TikTok about it that he's not going to play tonight because I thought that's kind of what that meant. And then we get closer to the game. He warms up and they're like, no, he's starting. And then they send it out and he's in the starting lineup. And they played so inspired. And it was really awesome to see that first quarter. At least we got that, even though it was a blowout, because I really thought the Nuggets were clicking and they were playing for AG. AG's rebounding, him just being out there like he was playing through a serious injury. And then the wheels fell off. But I guess let's just start with Aaron Gordon because that was such an inspired effort. And he's Mr. Nugget. And it feels great to see our guy do that and go out there and lay it out on the line like that. So let's just start with Aaron Gordon in that first quarter, I guess.
Hero of the team.
Yeah, said it before and said it again. He's Mr. Nugget for a reason. I think the guys kind of live and die by him, really. And so I think he knows that, and he put the team on his back, and he knew that him playing was going to give the guys the best effort, best energy all around. So my respect for him, I didn't know it could go up even more, but it did going into this game. And his effort in the first quarter, like grabbing 5 boards in that first quarter, is unbelievable. So proud of him.
I got to say, too, I hope that no matter what happens after this season, I hope that we keep him. I don't know. I think there will be some shaking up of the organization as a whole. I hope he's around. He just brings the right vibes, and I don't know if we make it this far without him.
Sure.
We definitely don't, in fact. So, I don't know. Second biggest impact next to Jokic. I hope he sticks around.
I agree.
Yeah. I for people that don't know how grades work, a grade 2 hamstring strain is really really tough to walk around with and go upstairs and just kind of do any sort of like daily living activities. One of the things that I saw on his leg was you can do this with taping, and it's like a super intricate, very detailed way to tape. And they basically made him a new hamstring with the way that he was taped. So you tape around the upper thigh, and then you tape basically down to like the upper calf, like just below the knee, and it's simulating where the muscles kind of go and attach to, and it takes a little bit of relief off of that, and it kind of helps that contraction in that muscle. It's wild for me to kind of digest that and think he's going to play game 7. Not only is he going to play, he's going to start, and then he starts grabbing boards like crazy, tipping them out to people. Like it's the one of him tipping
He
it
got
out.
that and one.
Well, he got an and one. He tipped one out to CB, and I'm like, he's doing everything that he can.
He
with
led the
this
team in
injury.
rebounds today with 11.
That's
Yeah,
amazing.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know what
You
else.
can't.
To say. Heart,
Yeah.
heart of a champion, Cam. I know that you texted that in our group chat, and no matter what happens today, he's the heart. He has the heart of a champion, and I think that's the perfect way to describe what AG did today. So
That's a good observation, Matt. I didn't even think to look for something like that.
You don't unless you know what you're looking at, and I saw that.
Matt's
and I was
got
like,
that background.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Matt's got an eye for hamstrings.
Yeah, he does.
Hamstrings are my thing.
Well, I think this was the same grade of hamstring strain that Curry had, and he didn't play the whole series. So like that's how severe it was. Like I mean, and this is game 7, and he was going to go out there and do it. And yeah, I did text after the first quarter, just because I was so inspired by what the team did after around AG, and I was like, no matter what happens the rest of the game, all props to AG and like just the heart of a champion, dude. Like he wanted it out, and he was out there. And Jokic said after the game that he told him don't play. Like if you can't, like don't play. And he still did. And he did what he did. He led the team in rebounds, and he shows you why he's Mr. Nugget. And nothing but love for AG. We're going to talk more about his like playoff as a whole and everything, I'm sure, down the line. But now I want to kind of give the Thunder a little bit of credit because, well, actually, first of all, I want to talk about something that was kind of bizarre in the second quarter. The start of the second quarter, the rotation that they threw out there in the first minute, they had Jokic and Murray off the court in that first minute, and they went on like a 6-8-0 run right away. I saw a stat after that run that the Nuggets have a minus 24 net rating in lineups without Jokic and Murray this year. And the lineup was Russ, Strother, CB, Peyton Watson, and Aaron Gordon, who had one leg, that, like we mentioned. I don't know how that can happen in a game 7. Adelman had a great season. We're not even going to talk about that right now. That was just such a huge turning point to me in that game because OKC found their confidence in that stretch. They started getting steals. They started getting out in transition. They're athletic, they're physical, and that's where it really started to pick up for them. They started to feel comfortable and confident after feeling anxious and shaky in that first quarter. You could tell they missed all their shots in the first quarter, and it didn't look like they had it going. The Nuggets had all the momentum on their side. You play that one bad minute without Jokic and Murray with that bizarre lineup, and it completely flipped the game, in my opinion. And the Thunder go on and score 40 points in the second quarter. They outscored the Nuggets by 20, and that was the game. You couldn't recover from that. So I guess that stretch itself, and now we can talk about the rest of the game, that it was just a blowout. What do you think happened? Was it that stretch, or was it just a continued stretch of good play from a really good team?
I think it was a gamble. I think Adelman had no choice but to lean on guys like Strother and people like P. Watt, like guys that have to step up for the absence of Michael Porter Jr.'s shoulder and Aaron Gordon's hamstring. So, I mean, really, what are you going to do?
Well, I just stagger it different. My point is Murray or Jokic should be out on the court. I don't know how they weren't. That's my point.
I think maybe it was a calculated risk. I don't think he did that in a half-assed sort of way. I think he had a reason for it. I think he's a pretty thoughtful coach from what we've seen so far. But you're right, though. That was the game, and that was tough to watch. So
Yeah. Ev, I like your outlook on that. Like, I mean, you're going to live and die by the bench. You did it all year. I mean, that's what's killed us all year. And ultimately, that's what it did this game. And that was the turning point of the game.
yeah,
We're up 5 going into quarter 2. We blew that lead within 1 minute. OKC went up 27-26 after that first minute. And then from there, I mean,
It was fast, dude.
it was quick.
Like,
I mean,
it was so fast.
can we talk about how like this has been the entire season? Like you could have predicted this months ago.
yeah.
We will. As we get into like the season outlook as a more or later on here, we're gonna kind of see how this game was a little bit of a microcosm of this game. But Matt, your thoughts on that stretch in the second quarter and just the blowout in general?
I have a double-edged sword to take. The first one is I agree with you, Evdog. I think it was a not so much of a calculated risk. I think Adelman just took the risk of saying, I'm gonna sit them now while we have a 5-point lead, and then they're gonna play the rest of the game after this, no matter what happens. But if the bench, and historically the bench has been bad, but there have been times throughout the playoffs, and there have been a couple games with OKC where the bench kept it actually close, or they kept somewhat of a lead. And I think Adelman, with that, kind of armed with that, the history of that, said, I'm going to take a calculated risk, and if they can hold it close, then Jokic and Murray are going to play the rest of this game, or at least Jokic will.
Right.
And I think, because right after that minute, Jokic came in pretty quickly after that, within the next, I think, 2 or 3
Murray
minutes.
came in
Yeah.
right away too.
Murray was in
right
with
away.
like 30 seconds in.
So I think and I think it's great from Adelman that he realized that. This is the second edge of my double-edged sword situation. I think it's great that Adelman realized that and said, you know what? I made a mistake. Oh shit. And here's, pardon my French, but here's the, I'm throwing Murray back in. I'm going to get Jokic back in. I made that mistake. Right. And as all coaches do, and go through scenarios like that. And, it's, like Cam said, we can get into Adelman's situation later. Yeah, it was it was one. I think it was 1 or 2 nails in the coffin, but I don't think it was the straw that broke the camel's back. You get those guys back in there. You keep it close up until both teams are around 43, 46 points, and then the wheels fall off. And that was earlier. Right. So you had chances after that. For sure. It's a game of runs. We've been saying that the whole offseason, or the whole postseason. We've been saying that especially throughout the OKC series. It's a game of runs. Whoever, they're going to go on hot streaks. We're going to go on hot streaks. We're just going to see where that ends up. And it was a costly mistake, but I don't think it was the end all be all for that game.
I like your point too on Adelman relying on the guys who had been kind of rising throughout the series too. Like, I think it's risky given like their overall history, but yeah, they were stepping up to the moment, so can't blame them for wanting to give it a try.
Yeah, they flailed, and you can't blame Adelman for what happens on the court, I guess, in that situation. It just was a really bizarre lineup, and it was the thing that got the game going, I think. And yes, Matt is right. It is true that Murray and Jokic came back, and the rope was still let go of, and they couldn't corral it back. It just sucks because OKC seemed like they were out of sorts, not feeling good, anxious shots, tight, and then that run really got them going. And OKC is good enough that when they get going and they start feeling that rhythm, they're going to keep going with it, right? So just that happened to be the stretch of the game that it really changed the complexion of everything, and the Nuggets were just unable to respond and kind of reel it back in. So, but on that note, I guess we can kind of do some credit to the Thunder now. I think they won 68 games this year, except Lou Dort. Never Lou Dort. Best offensive rating, best defensive rating, best net rating, best record in the league. We know all that. MVP this year, and they were everything they were advertised to be with that defense. And I think the Nuggets have a really good offense, but they made them look so inept at times. And I think we just got to give a little praise and love to OKC, even if it hurts, because that's an all-time team right there. That's an all-time defense. It's pretty generational stuff. So, yeah, just I guess your thoughts on this OKC team. Do you think that they're probably going to win the championship now? I do, but
I hope not.
we'll see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, going into playoffs, they were best team on paper, best. I mean, you saw it with their record. You see guys they have. I mean, they have. I hate to say it, but they have the MVP. He's going to win the MVP and SGA. Just a great team all around, and the fact that we were able to go 7 games is actually really impressive with how short of a team we got right now. I mean, 6 guys.
1 day of rest, jumping into this series. Yeah.
Massive.
Yeah, I mean, you essentially got 6 guys, and going into the series, the Thunder were minus 900 favorites to win the series by the sports books. In addition, the books said that a Thunder sweep was more likely than Denver stretching the matchup to 6 games. So they were predicting that a sweep was more likely than the Nuggets going 6 or 7 games. And
Wow.
I mean,
Good Lord.
defying odds as the Nuggets do. So
Yeah, a good showing overall too. Like, in a way, I was feeling like, we have nothing to lose. Nobody believes in us. Nobody believed in us in the first
sure.
series. Like,
And we'll get to these
proud of
positives
it.
in a second too, just because there are tons of positives to take away from this postseason. I guess I wanted to spend a minute or so now on just thinking how good OKC actually is, and it is a credit to us that we were able to stay in this fight as long as we did, and even probably should have won the series because of those game 4 and 5 blown losses. But Matt, what'd you think of that OKC defense? Pretty legit, huh?
Yeah, their defense is swarming, and I think not. I really don't want to go back to this. Is the only flashback I'll have to the Nuggets is that watching Jamal Murray be swarmed by this defense. He's been swarmed like that before. But this team they're legit, man. The boiling hatred that I have, the boiling hatred that I now have for this core Oklahoma City team. Really,
Yeah.
it speaks to the fact that they're really good, man. I hate the way that Chet Holmgren plays, but it's somewhat efficient, and he makes his shots. He's awkward and lanky, and Isaiah Hartenstein pisses me off to my core. I don't know why, but man, that little left-handed floater that he has every time it went up, I was like, yeah, that's going in. That's an automatic. Yep. That's an automatic 2 points. We can have an entire show on Shea, foul grifting or whatever you want to call it, kind of bodying into guys in the way that he plays, but it's extremely efficient. They work the system to what they do, and it's props to their front office. It's props to their coach and bringing this team together. And I don't think I would have ever put Chet Holmgren and Isaiah Hartenstein and Shea and Lou Dort on a team together. On paper it doesn't look, but it works. It's kind of the same thing that we saw from Minnesota with with Kat and Rudy last year and the year before, having those
Right.
Nobody ever runs that type of double big system, and I gotta
It was all in response to Jokic too. That's why these teams are doing that. Yeah.
And I think and something that was said during the ESPN broadcast was that it was, they kind of did this because the Nuggets kind of, they went through them last year. The Nuggets kind of went through OKC last year, and OKC, just like Minnesota, made changes to their roster because of the Nuggets, because of what Jokic,
in response to
Jokic. And I mean, again, and the last point I'll make on this is that they play really fast, and they're one of I think 2 teams in the playoffs. You could maybe make the case for New York, but the Pacers and Oklahoma City are the only 2 teams in the playoffs, I think, right now that play a super fast, really aggressive style of play, and they do it with all 5 guys on the court. They do it with that was the killer for the Nuggets. They do it with all 5 guys are running at the same pace throughout the entire game, and it's something to watch, man. That's why they won, that's why they won the amount of games that they did. That's why they had the most the most double-digit wins, leads that came into a win at the end of the season. So,
Yeah, no, I you can't say enough about how good this team is, how good they've built up this roster, how well they've drafted, all of it, right? And the team that I still hate the most coming out of this is the Chicago Bulls. I texted this a lot. Alex Caruso. Oh, we'll just Josh Giddey. How about that? We'll do it straight up, right? Yeah. Sure. We have the best role player, one of the best defenders in the league. We'll just give you him for Josh Giddey. That's it. We're not going to get any of the million picks you have. We're not going to get Aaron Wiggins or Cason Wallace from you as well. That's it, just straight up. And every time Caruso did something in the series, and he was maybe their second, third most important guy in the series, no joke. Every time he did something, I was just like, thanks, Bulls. That's all you got was Josh Giddey, a guy that they didn't even want to play last year and couldn't play for them anymore because he was such a deterrent to what they do. Josh Giddey hurt them last year. They were happy to get off of him, and they got Alex Caruso. I'm really pissed off at the Bulls for doing that and the competent team that they are. Yeah, so thanks a lot. And I knew that was going to hurt the Nuggets at some point, and it totally did in this series. I remember I was driving when that trade went through, and I was just like, that's it? That was it?
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's not a lot of things that I agree that Kendrick Perkins says, but during halftime, he said that the MVP of this series has been Alex Caruso. And, I mean, he's killed us off the bench. I mean, it was the Alex Caruso beat us. He was physical. I mean,
I would agree.
He was in Jokic's grill. I mean,
dude,
he fouls him a ton.
Half the time he's fouling him, but still, I mean, he's getting in his grill.
That's a problem with the NBA. Caruso is taking advantage of what the NBA allows.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, but it worked. I mean, that's part of their game plan. He frustrated Jokic, and as we know, when he gets frustrated, he gets in it with the refs, and that's how you get Jokic out of a game. I mean,
that was something I didn't like from Jokic today. That's for sure.
And I think they might have taken notes from the Clippers series. That's how Jokic was getting, frustrated. That's how I don't know. That's just an easy way to get Jokic out of the game is frustrate him, get him to play the game with the refs. But I mean, going off of the bench, I mean, their bench depth is just incredible. And like you said, Matt, it's just a young team that runs fast. And when you got a deep bench behind that, man, you got a good team. Got a great
super
chance.
Physical.
Just a great chance to win the entire thing. So.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, yeah, I think they're going to be favored, and as they should, to win it. The rest of it now, I don't want them to come out of the West, but I think they will. And I hate saying that because I hate the Timberwolves, but I'm kind of rooting for the Eastern Conference this year in a weird way. Even if OKC wins it, it makes Denver look better. But I kind of am rooting for the Eastern Conference a little bit.
Go Pacers!
That's our ABA brethren. That's our ABA brethren. All right, I want the Pacers. Give me the Pacers.
Give me the Pacers.
Well, we're about 20 minutes in, yeah, something like that. We'll go to some negatives before we start doing the positive outlooks, I guess, but because we just have to hit it. But I don't say this lightly, but Murray is just not the second option, or this team wasn't deep enough to help him, get to the things that he wants to do, and maybe that was the problem. Maybe it's depth, but Jamal, with this current iteration of this team, is not good enough to lift himself to that, especially against good defenses like we've seen him play. Last year was the Timberwolves. This year was the Thunder. He was bad. This 2 straight postseasons now of Jamal not being bubble Murray or 2023 Murray. It's just I don't know if he's that kind of guy anymore. And then Porter, I respect for him playing and for playing through that injury and stuff, but he sucked. He sucked, man. I mean, He's out there to be a shooter and he spaces the floor well, and that's something that he does well, but not the shooting part. He wasn't making any threes. So those two guys specifically, they struggle with real physical elite defenses. And I don't know. They're going to have to fix the roster around those guys or look to move them potentially. I guess we'll get into that later. But yeah, Murray and Porter just really big letdowns today, man. Really big letdowns.
I think that's why earlier I said that I believe there will be a big shakeup in the offseason. I don't know. I mean, again, happy we made it this far. I don't think I even personally felt like we had the chance to do that. And especially with the injuries, kind of miraculous. But yeah, they weren't good. And we are going to need more than that. So, I mean, can't blame them. They were tough. But Murray's been... It's been like the last year that Murray's been frustrating in this regard. I don't know what we do with him because we've been just waiting constantly for him to turn it on. I don't know if he can anymore.
I don't think we can expect him to get back to those levels. Yeah. And
maybe
that's where the depth is the problem.
Yeah. I don't expect him to be like the number 2 right behind Jokic. I think someone else will probably fill that role. I don't think he's like useless or that we should get rid of him. I just don't know if he's who we got used to him being about 5 years ago or whatever.
They need to take more off of his plate, and maybe that's the depth, I guess. Yeah,
but that might be true too.
I mean, I'm sure you guys would all agree with this. I mean, throughout this playoffs, AG has been the number 2. I mean, if not the number 1, the most consistent player all series, which sucks. I mean, once he went out with the hammy. But yeah, I mean, was waiting for Murray to show up all playoffs. I mean, you saw stints of it. I mean, maybe a quarter and
game
maybe
or
one
two
half.
Here or there.
You never have 2 good halves of Jamal Murray, which sucks. And you had that in the bubble. You had that in 2023. Didn't have it in 2024. Didn't have it, obviously, 2025 playoffs. And I remember one point thinking in 2024, after 2023, I was like, I can't believe this guy's not an all-star. And then come 2024 playoffs, I was like, man, this guy is not consistent. That's why Jamal Murray is not an all-star. Yeah. Same exact thing in the 2025. Saw it in the regular season, saw it in the playoffs. I mean,
it's leaking into the playoffs.
Yep. It's
the regular season stuff is coming to the playoffs.
Yeah. And like you said, Ev, like I don't like going in the off season. I don't think that next year you're going to have both MPJ and Jamal Murray on the team. One of those guys is gone.
Yeah. Yeah, just a question of who. We know somebody's up on the chopping block.
Exactly.
Yeah. Hate to say it, but what else are we going to do?
Matt, your thoughts?
Man, I think especially with those guys. Well, I'll start with Jamal Murray. You're in the Jamal Murray and the Nuggets. I feel like are in a weird limbo spot of is he enough to get rid of? Is he enough to get something back that's good enough? Or do we think that like you said, Cam, taking some stuff off his plate is going to help? As for Porter, he's been riddled with injuries his whole career, and he'll always be a Nugget. That's probably where he's
a champion.
Leave from. He's a champion. He had his specialty, and he gave us some pretty good years. I don't think it's a good enough reason to keep him. Obviously, he's not producing. That's my big takeaway, I guess, is like you guys said, you gotta find someone to put on the chopping block, and maybe that's more than one guy. Maybe we've been kind of toying with this, and I think other Nuggets fans have been toying with the idea that this was the last year that we see the majority of that core together. And I think that's real. I think if you want to go down the nostalgic route and say we're going to run it back one last time with these guys, you can. I mean, you can. They're in the position where they can do that. Unfortunately, if you want to win a championship, you can't do that. You absolutely can't do that. So, they have some big decisions to make. But Porter's my number one to go. Love the guy. Love what he brought to, the city. But, when your time's up, your time's up. And I think both the organization and MPJ kind of have to realize that now.
Yeah. It's a bit like before, if you remember the Celtics before they got the team that they had like Marcus Smart, Grant Williams, some of the other guys that I'm probably forgetting, but
who's the blonde guy?
Oh, blonde guy? Gordon Hayward?
Why am I spacing on his name? No.
Try to think of him. The Celtics were they had this team that looked like they should have won and been champions, right?
Porzingis?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
Porzingis.
No, I'm talking about before they got Porzingis and Drew Holiday. This is what I mean. Is that that Celtics team, they didn't win it, but it seemed like they should have. They had Marcus Smart, they had Grant Williams, they had Robert Williams. Like that team was like, okay, we're not good enough. We're sending Grant Williams out. We're sending Marcus Smart out. Like we're getting Kristaps Porzingis, we're getting Drew Holiday, and that team won the championship. And so it's a little bit different from the Denver side of it. I brought that up as a point of like they got rid of core guys that have been with the team for a long time in order to get better. And I think that's just kind of how I view like a Porter, and it's really mainly Porter. I think you still got to kind of keep Jamal, but I wouldn't be not taking calls. Like I would definitely be looking at moves with Jamal involved. Real quick, we're gonna hit Russ though, just because we don't know if Russ is gonna be back. We don't know if he's gonna opt into that player option and come back. And it was, I thought he was mostly positive this season. There was highs in the playoffs, and then there was lows, and the lows came in this round, and he couldn't hit a three. He might have been dealing with the hand injury that we heard about. But I don't know. Just real quick thoughts on Russ before we move on to looking really down the future. It was a big Russ giveth and Russ taketh playoff. That's for sure.
It's hard. I mean, you know what to expect from Russ, and he's either going to give you all the effort and it's going to work out, or he's going to give all the effort and he's going to get exposed, and the Nuggets are going to get exposed. So, man, it's such a gamble with that guy. But I mean, all you can ask is that he gives 100%, and he does that every single time. So, sucks.
What was the original question? Just outlook on Westbrook?
Just Westbrook. Yeah.
Like in the series or going forward?
Well, like just the playoff. I don't know. Just like, how do you feel about his playoffs as a whole?
Yeah.
There was a lot of good in the first series, but then it became bad, and they really relied on Russ. Unfortunately, they had to. But just Russ combos.
Yeah, I agree with Pat. I think you have to respect like the energy and the heart that he brings to it. I think overall he's still a net positive in my opinion. I think he brings a lot of intangibles that kind of transcend his ability at this point. Now that being said, we shouldn't rely on him for too much because
he might have been too important.
Yeah, he taketh as much as he gives. But I do like having him. I do want to keep him at least for another year.
I think I'll echo what you guys said just because it was on my mind of you do get that 100% from Russ, but I think his energy was elevated because of how much was lacking in other areas with the Nuggets. You go into the playoffs, you had 3 games of Adelman as your head coach. However, that morale, that energy in that locker room was still really low. And when you throw a guy like Russ in there, who no matter what, like you said, Pat, is going to give 100, 110%, you invite him to be in a position where he can giveth and taketh in that situation. So not only, I think if the Nuggets keep Russ, which I would not be opposed, I think he's a great veteran presence on the bench. He gives you a lot of intangibles, like you said, Ev. He's a great coach in those situations, especially to younger guys. If you keep CB, maybe you keep, Julian Strother or whoever you keep in those guard positions. I think he's going to be able to give you a little bit more veteran moxie in that locker room to help those guys out a little bit. And I think that's an intangible that the Nuggets don't have right now, and I would love for them to keep that. However, like you guys said, we can't rely on Russ. You can't rely on Russ to make a play that dictates how the rest of the game is going to go. You can't put him in a position to do that. You can put him in a position if you're down 10 and he gives you a running and one, got to finish with the left layup. Like that's a situation where, all right, now he's giving you some energy. Now he's giving you those intangibles. That's what he's there for. And that's where you use a guy like Russell Westbrook in the time frame of his career right now. But like you guys said, you can't rely on him anymore. I think he'd be a great guy to keep around. I'd love for him to pick up that player option because, again, I think he'd be an invaluable piece to this team, especially in a veteran mentor role. But you gotta limit his time, and I think if you do that and put the right pieces around him, you give him a ring. And I think that's what this team is set out for. That's a little bit of a back of the mind situation, is like, use it as motivation when you got nothing else left to do. Is you got Russ on that bench, and he needs you to play.
I like how you brought up the leadership part of his. I mean, what he brings to the team other than energy. I mean, he's the guy to. Yeah, he's the guy. He's the guy to put his arm around a young guy's shoulder. Pick him up after a frustration.
Teammates love him.
Yeah, teammates love him. I mean, hell, if you could get another veteran, have Russ take over like DJ's role. Sorry, DeAndre Jordan.
Yeah. Like 9 or 10.
Yeah,
Exactly. Level, not 6th.
That veteran presence in the locker room is huge for him.
Right. For sure. Yeah, we'll kind of shift gears here now, kind of go into the positives and a little bit of the outlook before we get out of here. I am proud of this team. I am proud of what they did. The season was chaotic as hell. Obviously, the coaching change with Mike Malone getting fired and Calvin Booth. A lot of ups and downs, but they turned things around, and they actually had a really fun postseason, I thought, even if it was hard to watch at times. They could have folded so many times, but instead they fought, they clawed, and they gave us one hell of a postseason ride either way. 2 7-game series, some incredible game winners. A lot of heart was shown, and this hurts, but I think we saw that the Nuggets are close, but they probably just need like 2 or 3 more guys that are legit rotation pieces, guys who could shoot, play physical, be trusted, match up more against a team like OKC, with the West Conference just getting even better. And so there's going to be some things that they need to look into for sure. I've always wanted to see if Bruce Brown would come back on like a minimum. I would love, we've talked about this before on like PlayStation and stuff. Hopefully Deron Holmes is good. I hope he's good. And I think there's ways out of it. I don't think their window is closed, obviously. They still have the best player in the world. But whoever comes in and takes that GM role, they can't be afraid to shake things up, like you've mentioned, Ev, that there's going to be some shakeups. But they also don't need to go out and sell the farm, if you will. Like, just make some real strategic, pointed moves that are actually going to benefit us instead of just fire sailing everybody. You should take calls on everybody, but don't just fire sale everybody. That said, actually, one more thing before we move on. I want to get everybody's grade on the season. What would you grade our season now that it's officially over?
I'm going to give it an A. A+ would be a finals appearance. I still think we surpassed everybody's expectations. Nobody was giving us a chance, even against the Clippers. So I'm proud of it. And with 2 players hurt and like lack of depth on a bench, what more can you ask for, man? We went against the hardest teams and, put us in the Eastern Conference. We're in the finals. So A season to me.
I like it. I want to give it a higher grade than I'm going to, but I also want to give it a lower grade than I don't know. It's tough. Like, I want to give it a C-. However, they they did some things. I don't know. They figured things out.
I'm
They
I'm with you
made
there,
it.
Pat. It's tough.
I mean, they weren't supposed to go 7 games with this OKC team. They weren't supposed to make this far. With what they did with what they had is really really impressive to me. So
This season's really hard to grade.
oh man, like C plus to B minus. I'd say C plus.
Fair enough.
I'll go next before you, Matt, real quick. Just because I'm kind of in the same line of thought as Pat. I think I'm in that C range because listen, when you have Jokic, you have the best player on the planet. Like to me, it's like, well, you failed. First of all, you failed. I know that we surpassed expectations and everything, but we failed. You have Jokic, and the goal is to win the championship, and you should be a team that should win the championship, right? So that brings it down a lot. That said, the season looked like it was completely cooked when Mike Malone got fired. And the turnaround and the resilience that they showed makes it feel a lot more positive than it was because it ended actually where we went to 7 games with the best team in the league, right? So I want it like if we didn't do that and like say we lost to the Clippers, I'd be like, no, this was like a D season. But after the postseason we had, I'll go up to I think I'm gonna go C plus and I'm leaning on B minus, but that's kind of the range I'm looking at right now.
I don't know, man. I
Matt.
think you have to give it at least a B, considering all of the roadblocks, and I don't know. That's just my opinion.
But that's the thing is the season as a whole, going into the season, it was like you should be a contender. And then when all the stuff that happened, it's like, well, that's still a part of the season, and you didn't get to the West Finals. That's something that I really wanted to see from them was get there, and I get it, and I feel good that they played against OKC this well and that they pushed them to 7. But the goals championships with the all-time player like Jokic, and they didn't do it.
Yeah, I'm gonna use my Nuggets metaphor here that I said before we started the show. The Nuggets in the playoffs, they use you always hear putting a Band-Aid on the bullet hole. They put a Michael Porter Jr. shoulder diaper on the playoffs, and I say that with as much respect.
Well said.
I say that with as much respect to the Nuggets. But man, did they? I don't want to say they're frauds because I don't think they are. You got the best player in the world, and you piece it together, and you're so resilient. But man, it was so like, are they gonna? Every night it was, are they gonna pull it together tonight? Are they going to? And then hindsight is 2020. When you look back at it, it's like we get into the position of listing all the things that we need to do in the off season, and you're like, oh man, this is a lot bigger of a problem than we thought it was going into the playoffs. And I think we were blinded by the fact that Michael Malone had lost the locker room, and then for the majority of us, especially fans, it was, holy cow, we just fired our head coach and our GM 3 games before the playoffs. Okay, now we're in the Adelman stage of what are we going to figure out in the 3 games, and then in the first couple of games of the Clipper series, and then, oh, look, we won the Clipper series when no one thought we were going to win it. We weren't slated to win that series at all. You win that, and then you take game 1 at OKC. Whoa, okay, now what do we do? And you compile the crap on top of each other, and you keep layering up that diaper. It's like, where you keep layering up the Band-Aid of like, is this team actually good enough to make it to the finals? And then it abruptly ends. Yeah, we had a great end of the road there with taking OKC to 7, but man, the problems are weight your neck deep in problems if you're the Nuggets right now, unfortunately. So with all that said, sorry, F-Dog, I'm going with these guys here. I'm giving it a C plus, and the plus for me, honestly, is only because you made
end of the season
to the end of the season. You made it to the second. You made it to the second round. You took the best team in the league to 7 games. That definitely deserves some praise for sure. Maybe a B minus in there, but man, when you look back at all those problems, especially throughout the regular season, man. That brings that grade down for me like crazy. I love the optimism. I love that, from an outside perspective and from all the, analysts and everybody saying that, we didn't have what it takes to even be in the second round. I get that. I get that take.
Yeah.
When you look back at the team and the problems that they've been dealing with for the last 2 years, for me, it just drops. But
I'm going to push back on that just a little because I think we need some conflict in the podcast, and
Might as well.
Yeah, why not?
Optimist Ev Dog.
The thing is, like, I take all your points and I agree with a lot of that. I think there's a lot of BS that we got to dig through here, and that's true. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. I think we're in kind of for a rough run coming up here soon, but I think in my mind, I'm thinking of how do we rise to the occasion and overcome adversity, and with all of that in mind, like nobody's gonna have a perfect season. OKC damn near had a perfect season, and they still went to Game 7 in the second round. They could have lost.
They almost blew it.
Yeah, they almost blew it.
Yep.
They could have blown it in Games 5, 4. Like
the Nuggets had 2 chances to win this series before Game 7.
exactly. So that's sort of my point. Is like as a whole,
right.
I think it's greater than the sum of its parts. I think we were able to really overcome some pretty heavy adversary, and like again, nobody was giving us a chance. How do you fire your coach days before you go into the playoffs and then come out and go through 2 rounds almost winning against a team that won 65 68 games? I think we kind of, I mean, we talked about how good OKC is, right? I think we're sort of understating that a little bit in this section. We took them to 7 games, and we could have beaten them in 5
For sure.
So
That's a good point.
That's a good point.
I agree. We do have a lot ahead of us, and I'm kind of nervous for that. But I still think, all things considered, we really did.
Turn it around.
We got something out of it.
Yeah.
The Cronkies were.
yeah.
I think they were right. By the way, Josh Kroenke. I think he was proven right this postseason.
Yeah, I
To your
completely
point,
agree.
like,
Yeah,
For
if
sure.
the ball bounces a couple different ways in a couple different games, we're in the Western Conference Finals right now. And I mean,
And
might
we're
not have even
on this podcast.
might not have even needed a Game 7 too in this series. Like we could have done it in 6.
Games
Just
4 and
missed
5.
Missed opportunities there, which
Yeah.
sucks.
Yeah.
Which
Yeah,
sucks.
no, Ev's right about a lot of this because at the end of the day, this is entertainment. We love this team, and thank God we have like a Jokic kind of player, an all-time player that makes this so much easier to watch and enjoy. And I think you're right because this postseason gave us 14 games. That's a lot of basketball to watch. It gave us fun moments. We
Wow.
got game winners. We got
we had some all-timers, man.
game-winning dunk from AG. We got game-winning 3 for him, AG. We got game-tying 3 from AG. We got Jokic plays and shots and all these really fun things.
Draw their game?
Yeah,
What?
Yeah, like
Against
Game 6 was
OKC.
so fun.
against
Game 6 was fun.
like
Yeah, so like
That's
no, like
something.
absolutely you're right. Like we can use this and if we looked at just the postseason and everything that happened since Mike Malone got fired, great stuff. It's just when you put it in context and you're like, why are we doing this?
Yeah.
We're here to win championships, and Jokic is an all-time player. And if you're not winning championships while he just averaged a triple-double, should have won MVPs in his prime, that's when you're like, okay, we failed him. We failed this season.
Yeah.
But you're right. It was fun, and I enjoyed so much of it. So,
Yeah.
like I hear you.
I have to concede on one point though. I think we probably should have been a 2 seed, a 2 or 3.
Yeah,
I think.
that 4-game losing streak with
Yeah.
Malone
Yeah.
screwed us.
Yeah, like that was
It screwed us.
because where would we have been in the bracket? On the other
We would
side,
have
right?
played.
We would have played Minnesota.
We would have played okay. We would have played Golden State in the first round, and then
Yeah.
Minnesota in the second. And yeah, Minnesota would have been tough, but
I think easier than OKC.
probably
Maybe.
even though they
I
have
don't
our
know.
number. Even though they have our number, they're not as good of a team as OKC.
Yeah, I guess that's
At
the
all.
other thing I thought too. Is like the West is tough, man. Like
And it's only going to get tougher.
It's only gonna get tougher.
I know.
Yeah,
I
like,
know.
Congrats, Cooper Flag's coming to Dallas. Congrats, Giannis is probably coming west. Like,
Yeah.
good luck.
Watch Dallas trade
this
him.
is our year to win it, and like Jokic said,
The
We-
East opened up.
we couldn't, so we didn't.
Plus,
couldn't, so we
to
didn't.
To your point, Ev, about how we could have and should have been second seed, had some unfortunate things happen with some injuries throughout the season. You know, AG missed maybe a quarter to a third of the season.
Yeah,
30,
And
40 games.
and he wasn't playing like at full health. Like he was timid.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
wasn't Murray? Am I forgetting?
Yeah,
Murray
battled some
missed
injuries.
stretches.
Yeah.
Yeah, like we definitely had all that.
Jokic had a child.
Had a couple.
Like, missed some games.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, that's right.
We lost
And
to the Wizards twice. We lost to Portland
Yep.
at the buzzer.
You're right. We did.
Oh,
it's
There's
like,
a lot of games that bro, we won 50 games this year, but we probably should have won like I don't know,
55.
56,
Yeah.
55.
Yeah.
We gave so many away. And maybe that's a part of this equation too that we're talking about is can you survive the regular season more if you have a deeper team? And put yourself in better positions to be
absolutely.
a higher seed.
Absolutely, yeah.
Absolutely.
So-
The depth,
and
that's kind of what I said earlier. The depth is the root of all of this. And
It is.
It's kind of poetic that ended up being our downfall in more ways than one.
It was a microcosm of the season, this game.
Yeah.
It kind of was.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah,
That's
totally.
a great point.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a
And
great.
Jamal's inconsistency, and Russ's giveth and taketh, and Porter's inconsistency.
And meanwhile, Jokic
AG
is
was hurt.
amazing.
Porter,
AG
Yeah.
got hurt, and he was hurt this season. Yeah.
Everything came.
except for one game. Porter didn't show up.
It was the
at all
ultimate
except for
game.
One game. It was.
This is the
Yeah.
most meta game.
This was the 2024-2025 Nuggets in a nutshell.
Yeah.
We all
One
saw it.
game.
It played all the hits.
Yeah.
It played all the hits.
Man.
Yeah, so
Strother's
without
bad
going
defense.
too deep. Yeah, well, Strother had a rough game today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Without going like we're gonna have off-season shows for you guys. You know, we're gonna do some research. We're gonna think about players. We're gonna talk about the trades or the rumors here and there. Right? We're not gonna get into that right now. But like, yeah, we need to add 2 or 3 more guys, and I don't know how you do that because it's hard in the NBA and the CBA makes it a lot harder now to add talent. But there's going to be teams that are going to break up their guys that we don't even know yet, and there's going to be guys that become available that we didn't even think were available. So we'll see what happens. Yeah,
And there'll be guys that come to us that play better with Jokic than they did wherever they were coming from.
yes.
So I think
Right,
there'll be
exactly.
opportunities that exist. Yeah.
Justin Holiday said this is basketball heaven coming here. Like
Yeah.
what did he say? It made him fall in love with basketball again coming to the Nuggets last year. You know, like, and that was a guy that was a veteran bouncing around. And Jokic was right. He said this after the game. He said the deeper and longer bench teams are winning chips right now. Those are the teams that are making it. And that I think that's not him saying we need to be deeper, but it's him saying that's part of the reason that we lost, you know, and that's
It
part
makes
of the reason
sense.
we're not going further.
You know what
Yeah.
we should do? We should trade with the Chicago Bulls.
Yeah, I'm saying, man, some veterans they got there. I don't even know who.
Take
They
it.
got a lot of young.
They'll give you a cookie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's get Io DeSunmo and Kobe White for Strother and DeAndre Jordan.
Chips.
Sounds like a steal for Chicago.
Maybe we can get Josh Giddey for Christian Brown.
Please don't.
If CB, dude,
No.
to Chicago and absolutely lit it up, I might hang myself.
CB, that's not crazy to say that CB. This was his 3rd year. He took a step up again. I don't know, man. CB might be on a trajectory of like legit offensive threat.
I
like,
wanna
and he
keep
and he
him.
really was.
He's
Yeah.
the
Oh,
one
for sure. I
player
think-
next to Jokic I want to keep the most. Oh, well,
Jokic,
apart from Aaron
AG,
Gordon. Yeah.
CB.
Yeah.
Yep.
Those three
Those
are
three.
those guys that you take.
The real
I guess it
big
depends.
three.
Big three.
You take calls on everyone else.
It sucks because those two guys, I mean, CB and AG are your highest trade stock as of now after this playoffs.
Probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wanna,
Hopefully Pickett, hopefully Strother, hopefully P-Watt did enough to like. Not that I'm wanting to get rid of these guys. I'm just saying, like, if you had to throw them in a deal with Porter to sweeten the deal, hopefully they did enough for their stock that the team that takes them on is like, okay, you know what? These guys are young guys. We saw some good stuff from them. We can develop them more.
I have a question. I personally don't think next season will be very good, just based off of, you know, how you can forecast all this stuff going out. Is that a bad thing, or can next year be kind of a mid like rebuild sorta, no expectations, and then maybe you pick up a few guys or you develop a few guys, and then like 2 years from now you're starting to think like, okay, now we're back to form. Because I don't want to just clear house as an impulsive thing. I think we should be developing rather than
you
like.
gotta think about Jokic and his age.
That's the problem.
I mean, he's
Where
still
are you
got a
30
few
right now?
years. He's still
I
got a
get
few
it.
years.
He does,
Right,
but
he
that's
does.
if we're talking about wasting a 3rd straight year of Yoke,
I mean,
That gets scary,
I
though.
hear that.
That's
I
tough.
agree.
That's tough. Yeah.
I agree, but I still feel like Jokic at 33 could still be pretty good.
Oh, and he will be. He's going to be good for the rest of his career until he decides to hang him up, I bet. It's just like
Yeah.
he's at the apex and the peak of his powers right now.
Yeah,
And
I understand.
could this be the first year that Jokic doesn't improve? Next year? It could be. We've seen him improve every single season. Could this finally be the year where he stays there or goes down a little?
Yeah.
He might.
Which
I
is still
think-
all time.
I don't know.
He won't. I mean, he won't go down until we get an all-star or some relief for him.
God, I want
That's-
another.
that's what
All-Star.
it's gonna
I don't know
take.
how it's going to happen, but
That's what it's going to take. In my opinion,
Yeah.
I think he won't start going down until. I mean, obviously, age that's inevitable. But once we get some relief for him, you want a decline.
Yeah. Because it'll naturally decline if he's playing less. If he's playing less minutes, if it's not his shots getting up, if it's not his assists, naturally that's going to
it's
decline.
it's like LeBron wanting to pass the baton to AD, even though that didn't really end up happening. But that was the goal. Was like,
Yeah.
all right, AD, this is your team now. Even though LeBron was like, bro,
Yeah.
how is this still my team? Like something like that with Jokic in the latter half of his career. You're hoping that. I don't know who that is, but hopefully it's
Christian
somebody that
Brown.
can come in and be the number one guy to Jokic's two. You know, maybe Christian Brown
I don't
becomes the first All-Star that Jokic plays with.
I will say that even guys like Jamal
Strawberry.
Murray, even guys like Jamal Murray are saying that like we haven't seen the ceiling for CB yet, which makes me feel
Yeah.
excited. I don't know how that will play out,
I
but
love it.
I don't
I
know,
love
man.
that.
I've been
He's
seeing
going into year 4.
I've been seeing flashes of greatness. So
Yeah, it's true.
That,
I mean,
that three he hit at the end of the shot clock today, I was like, oh, nice.
what about that
Yeah.
dunk
Yeah.
he had in the first quarter?
yeah. That's
Oh, yeah.
he was hot early. It
Yeah.
was great. I mean, he had a good game overall. I thought.
He
I
plays
do-
hard.
Better
wanna
handle,
say
gets more
before-
consistent 3-point shooting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do want to say before we wrap it up and
Yep.
go into our outro, I'm going to put it on the record. I know you guys know this. I'm going on the record. I love a Deron Holmes. I don't know.
Matt
I-
loved that Dayton
I
tape.
love- yeah. I don't know, man.
Yeah.
It's just I think, and to your point, Ev, about people coming in and playing really well with Jokic, I think we were robbed of his first year, and
Yeah.
however that
Oh, for sure, he could have helped us.
for sure. And however that set him back, whatever. I think Deron Holmes lights it up. I'm calling it next year.
I
Love to
hope
see it.
so, bro. I hope so, dude. Well, we ran a little long because there was a lot to talk about. We're basically wrapping up a season in one episode, and we're going to do more stuff as we go along here. The Nuggets have a huge responsibility to surround Jokic with better talent this summer. I know it's not going to be easy, but we got to believe in getting the right GM, the right coach with the right vision, and that they're on the same page to construct a better roster and help Jokic win more rings while he's in his prime. We'll see how that shakes up, but guys, we love our Nuggets. We love making the show. We're going to keep doing it this offseason coverage, and we're just going to keep on this path because it's fun to get together and talk about this team and make this show for y'all. So we appreciate you checking it out for the few people that are. And yeah, we're going to keep doing this because it's a lot of fun. We're about 14 episodes in. Shout out to Poppy. Shout out to the fam, all the fams that are listening in. And maybe we'll start to really pick this up more in the off season for sure. But yeah, we're about this is the 14th episode. We hit a couple regular season shows, and then we were basically all in for the postseason. So it'll be interesting to see what the offseason brings us. But any closing thoughts? That was the Nuggets season for you guys. Any closing thoughts?
I mean, I definitely feel better talking through it. That was good therapy sesh for me, at least.
Same.
For sure.
It's always next year.
I'm gonna use the towel as a token for the next couple of years, but we believe in this team.
Always believe.
Always
We got Yoke.
always believe. We got Yoke.
Hey.
As long as we have Yoke, I will always wave this towel.
And as
if you
always,
run-
Nuggets and 6.
Yeah. Hey, if you run out of dude wipes, that towel will serve a purpose now. So.
Oh, sure.
Do you think we'll be Addling the cage this season? Do you think it's gonna be Adelman?
Oh man,
Yes.
that might be an episode for another day.
Yeah.
Short
Maybe
answer,
we'll go
yes.
really into it.
Yeah.
I don't.
Short
think
answer,
so, but-
probably yes.
Really?
I
We'll see.
just I think it's the cheap option. I will get into it later.
We're at an hour, so
Yeah, we're at an hour. We're gonna wrap it up. Sorry for if anyone is even here. Go check us. Go check us out on Instagram at the Washed Kings Pod, and then on TikTok at the Washed Kings. Matt, hit that outro. Let's get out of here, boys. That was fun. Yes, sir. We believe. We still believe. I don't care.
Where's F Dog going?
I don't know. He just ran out of here.
He pulled a shot.
Oh my god.
Oh,
He said bye. Boy, bye.
The
Zoom.